This is the Everything Weight Loss podcast with Shari Ware, where we talk about everything, all things, anything to do with weight loss, health, and wellness. Is how do you get around your fears to still get the outcome that you want? As most people know, I work with mindset, and it's not just as simple as saying we need to try harder. If we're trying to make a change in our life uh, and we're not we're struggling to make that change, there's a reason. And there's lots of different things we can do. And one of the things that we can do is what I'm going to talk about right now. And it's actually being aware of what your fears are, being aware of those things that you maybe don't like doing, and finding a way to still do them anyway. And it's not just about pushing through the fear necessarily. So, the best way that I can explain this to you is to use a real life scenario. So, as I do so often, I'm going to use my own life. Um, a lot of people might not know this, but I am actually an introvert. I know most people will watch videos or they'll see me up on stage and they'll think, that I'm an extroverted person, that I have a lot of self confidence. However, that's not necessarily the case, especially considering for so many years of my life when I was so overweight. I didn't want to be seen. I didn't want to be judged, and so I would hide as much as possible. And that was my life for at least 35 years. So you don't suddenly, after 35 years, become a person who is necessarily comfortable being seen and putting themselves on show, so to speak, which is what I need to do uh, for what I'm trying to achieve. And one of the biggest reasons why I'm actually able to do that is because I'm so passionate about helping the people that I want to help, the people who are like I was. So, one of the ways that I've learnt to get around those things is, for instance, I don't necessarily like getting up in front of people to speak. I don't necessarily like, or I'm not comfortable. It's not that I don't like, it's that I'm not comfortable talking to people I don't know. Say I go to a networking function, I'm one of those people who will usually arrive last. I'll be there either right on the dot of when we're starting or a little bit late. And whether I intended it or not, subconsciously, it's because I didn't want to have to talk to people that I didn't know, because that was not comfortable for me. I wouldn't talk to people unless I was spoken to, and I would be the first one out the door. So I do network now, and it is something that is really beneficial for my business, and it allows me to help a lot more people. And as part of the networking group that I go to, I decided to volunteer for a leadership role to help run the meeting that I go to. And the reason I did that was it was very strategic. I know that I don't like to make phone calls. I know that I don't like to uh, necessarily talk to people, or I'm not comfortable. I'm not comfortable making phone calls. I'm not comfortable talking to people I don't know. I'm not comfortable getting up in front of a room of people off the cuff. Like I said, I push myself to do these things because I know that it's necessary for me to do these things to help the people I want to help. So I do push myself to do it when I have to, but only when I have to. So I knew that if I put my hand up for a leadership role, I was going to have to do those things as part of that role. Now, so often, whether it be wrong, whether it be right, we don't do as much for ourselves as what we will do for other people. Now, I realised that the only way it was going to, it's something that I've learned on my journey, the only way it gets easier, the only way anything that's uncomfortable gets more comfortable is to do it. and to do it over and over and over and over again. So that's why I put my hand up for a leadership role, because I knew that over and over and over again, I would have to call people on the telephone. I would have to talk to people that I didn't know. I would have to get up in front of the room and talk to people, and not the people that I'm trying to help. Uh, which is why I usually do it. I push myself to do it because the people I'm talking to are the people that I'm trying to help. But if I don't have that reason, I'm not going to push myself to do it. So by putting myself in that position where, because I committed to that, when I make a commitment, I follow through on the commitment. I committed to somebody else, so it forces me to do it. And as I do it more and more and more, it gets more and more comfortable, and it gets easier and easier and easier. So sometimes it can be a case of knowing what our fears are, or knowing what are those things that we don't necessarily want to do or feel comfortable doing, and not trying harder, because that's not going to work. But finding ways to get around yourself, to ways that are going to make it easier for you. Because if you've watched my mindset hacks video, that's one of the mindset hacks we want to use to create healthy changes in our life. We don't want to be trying to we don't want to try harder. We want to find ways to make things easier. So this is a way that you can do that. So if you have any questions, if this resonates with you at all, I'd love to know in the comments. Are you somebody like me who is maybe I call myself an extroverted introvert, definitely an introvert. And when I need to be, I will push myself to get out there and act in some ways that are a bit extroverted. Are you one of those? Do you know what I'm talking about? And just any comments in general, I would love to know.
Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. Remember to check out the show notes, and if you have any comments, feedback or suggestions, I'd love to hear them. If you've received value from this podcast, make sure to subscribe, and I'd love you to rate and review the show. Have a fabulous day.